What if I told you that every time someone hurts you and you react, they win? Not just a petty win, a deep psychological victory they crave. Stay with me, because once you understand what Chrysippus uncovered about human nature, you'll never see conflict the same way again. See, when someone attacks you, it feels personal, but it's not. What they're really doing is far darker. They're unloading their pain, their shame, their fear on you. Chrysippus called this the shadow, the parts of ourselves we bury, deny, and hate. And here's the gut punch. Instead of facing that darkness, they project it. They make you the villain just so they can avoid being the one who needs healing. It's a mind game, and most people don't even know they're playing it. But once you spot it, you flip the script. You take back your power. And that is how you make them regret ever coming for you. If this hits home, don't scroll past. Like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a truth that cuts this deep. Let's break the cycle together. Number 1. When they hurt you, they are reflecting on themselves. When someone hurts you, they're not seeing you. They're seeing a part of themselves they can't stand. That insult they hurl, that cold silence, that passive-aggressive jab, it's not really about you at all. It's about their own reflection. You just happen to be the mirror. Chrysippus, the great mind who explored the darkest corners of human nature, explained that people attack in others what they refuse to face in themselves. Why? Because the unconscious mind doesn't clearly separate self from other when it comes to shame, fear, or buried resentment. The person coming at you with judgment is, in reality, projecting their own internal war. You just ended up in the blast zone. Here's where things get dangerous. When you react not calmly, not strategically, but emotionally. When you rush to defend yourself, when you argue, cry, lash out, or even explain, you're doing exactly what they need you to do. You're stepping into a role in their drama, and worse, you're confirming their distorted view. You're saying, in effect, yes, I am everything you fear, everything you hate, everything you won't look at in yourself. That's the trap. That's the game. The truth is, your reaction becomes the weapon they use to control you. And it's not always obvious. You might think you're standing up for yourself, setting the record straight, making them understand. But what you're actually doing is fueling their story, giving their projection life and energy. That's how they keep you locked in a cycle. Provoke, watch you react, feel powerful. They've taken their own brokenness and made it your problem. You didn't ask for it, but now you're holding a tan worse, responding to it. So how do you break free? You stop feeding the fire. You do what Chrysippus and the Stoics taught. You master your response. Stoicism isn't about being cold or passive. It's about being intentional. It's the strength to stay rooted when someone else is spinning. When you're hurt, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this really about me? Most of the time, it's not. And when you can see that clearly, you take your power back. You refuse to play a part in someone else's unresolved pain. You stay grounded, not to prove them wrong, but to stay true to yourself. And that's what flips everything. Because nothing unnerves someone who thrives on control more than someone who can't be moved. Your calm, your silence, your refusal to react, it's not weakness. It's clarity. It's power. And it's the one thing they can't steal. Now, let's go deeper. Why do some people always seem to come for you specifically? Why do they choose you as the target? The answer isn't just personal, it's psychological, and it has everything to do with how your strength threatens their shadow. Let's get into that. Number 2, your reaction is the weapon they use to control you. They don't want an apology. They don't want understanding. They want a reaction. Your reaction, that's the real prize. Chrysippus saw this pattern long before modern psychology gave it a name. When someone insults you, disrespects you, or tries to provoke you, they're not seeking truth or connection. They're baiting you. It's a trap, and most people fall straight into it without ever realizing what's happening. The moment you respond with emotion, anger, frustration, tears, they've got what they came for. Your reaction becomes their reward. It gives them a sense of control, a validation, power over you, not because you're weak, but because they're using your own unconscious against you. According to Chrysippus, what gets triggered in these moments isn't about the present, it's about the past. These are old emotional programs, deep-seated patterns formed in childhood. In moments where you felt unseen, unloved, or unsafe, we carry these wounds into adulthood, tucked away in the unconscious, until someone presses the right button. That coworker who undermines you, that friend who throws subtle jabs, that stranger who makes you feel small, they're not just annoying, they're waking up something ancient inside you. And because we don't realize it, we respond like that younger version of ourselves. Hurt, reactive, out of control. We mistake that reaction for being real, but it's just a ghost. Chrysippus put it bluntly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's the hard truth. We think we're making choices, but often we're just playing out patterns over and over until we wake up. And waking up means realizing that the pain someone throws at you is theirs, not yours. It's a reflection of who they are, not who you are. Because here's what most people miss. Happy, fulfilled people don't try to destroy others. People at peace don't start fires. Only pain wants victims. Only the wounded seek control through chaos. So what do? You stop giving away your power. You stop reacting not by becoming numb or detached, but by becoming aware. That's where Stoicism comes in. Not as some cold philosophy, but as a survival skill. The Stoics taught us to put space between stimulus and response. Someone disrespects you. Pause. Feel the fire rise, but don't feed it. Step back. Ask yourself, is this mine or is this theirs? Most of the time, it's theirs. And when you see that, you don't need to explain, defend, or prove anything. You stay centered. You let their storm pass without stepping into it. That's not passivity. It's precision. It's discipline. It's power. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting yes below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. And when you can do that consistently, the game changes. You're no longer bait. You're not on the hook. You're not at the mercy of other people's pain. You become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you get sharper. You become the calm in the chaos. And that's exactly where we go next. How to recognize when someone is threatened by your inner strength, and why they'll often try to tear you down for simply refusing to break. Number 3. Happiness does not go to war. Only pain needs victims. Happy people don't start fights. They don't need to, because happiness doesn't seek victims. Pain does. When someone lashes out at you, spreads rumors, mocks your choices, or finds subtle ways to undermine your confidence, it's almost never about you. It's about the storm they're carrying inside. Chrysippus understood this on a level most people never reach. Those who seek to hurt. Others are almost always trying to validate their own suffering. They want to confirm what they already believe, that the world is cruel, that people are fake, that love is conditional, that they're always the one being wronged. And the second you take the bait, get defensive, explode, shut down, you feed their worldview. You give their inner pain a stage to perform on. That's how the cycle stays alive. Take someone like Marcus. He's got a coworker, Jenna, who constantly criticizes him in meetings, makes backhanded compliments, and always has a way of twisting his words. At first, Marcus snapped back. He'd argue, defend himself, try to clear things up, but it only got worse. She'd smile when he got frustrated, and somehow always managed to come out looking composed. What Marcus didn't see at the time was that Jenna wasn't trying to win an argument. She was trying to pull him into her reality, one where everyone is out to get her, where no one listens, and where she's always the misunderstood one. She needed Marcus to play that role, not because she hated him, but because her identity was built around being the victim. Chrysippus revealed something chilling. People in pain often recruit others to act out their internal drama, not consciously, not maliciously, but predictably. They need someone to prove their suffering is real. And when you react emotionally, you become that proof. That's the hook. That's how good people end up trapped in toxic dynamics, confused about why they feel exhausted, guilty, or ashamed when they didn't even do anything wrong. It's not about the situation. It's about the psychological role you've been cast in. But there's a way out, a clean, powerful break. It's what Chrysippus taught and what the Stoics lived by. Withdraw your energy. You don't explain. You don't retaliate. You remove yourself from the role entirely. You stop giving them the emotional fuel they need to keep their script alive. And here's where Stoicism isn't just a philosophy. It's your defense. Stoics believed in radical control over one thing: the self, your thoughts, your actions, your emotions. Everything else? Let it burn. When Marcus finally stopped engaging, when he listened without reacting, when he answered with calm, short replies, when he refused to take the stage, something shifted. Jenna didn't stop trying, but the drama no longer stuck. She couldn't pull him in. He had stepped out of the story. That's how you break the loop. You refuse to be the character someone else needs to stay broken. And that silence, that refusal to play along, it's not weakness. It's warfare. Because nothing terrifies someone who lives in chaos more than someone who refuses to join the battle. Now, let's take it even further. Why do they keep circling back to you, even when you pull away? What is it about your presence, your strength, that threatens them so deeply? The answer lies in how the shadow responds to light. Let's unpack that next. Number 4. Breaking the loop, withdrawing energy, removing from role. The strongest move you can make isn't striking back, it's pulling away completely. Chrysippus called it withdrawing the projection, stepping out of the psychological role someone is trying to trap you in. When someone attacks you, they're not just looking for a reaction. They're looking for a co-star in their emotional play. But when you don't react, when you don't flinch, defend, or explain, you break the cycle. You deny them the mirror they need. And that's when something powerful happens. They're left alone with themselves. Most people can't handle that because, without your energy to feed off, they're forced to face their own motives, their own anger, their own shame. That's the moment when their carefully constructed story starts to fall apart. This isn't about being passive. It's not about becoming a doormat or letting people walk over you. That's a misunderstanding that costs people their peace. What Chrysippus taught and what the Stoics lived is that true strength means staying centered while others try to pull you off balance. It's the discipline to witness someone else's pain without making it your own. And this kind of clarity only comes when you choose not to react. Most people don't realize how much power lives in that pause, the space between what's said and how you respond. That pause is your liberation. Because here's the truth. Your reaction is rarely about what's happening right now. It's about what happened years ago. The criticism, the dismissal, the abandonment you never fully processed. When someone triggers you, they're poking at those old wounds. And unless you're conscious of it, you'll react automatically, not from who you are today, but from the version of you that got hurt back then. That's how the past keeps controlling the present. That's how other people end up driving your emotional state without even knowing you. But the second you pause, that exact second you change the outcome. You interrupt the script. You stop being a character in their drama and return to being the author of your own. That's what Stoicism is really about. It's not emotional suppression, it's emotional precision. It's learning to master your inner world so the outer one can't hijack you. Think about someone in your life who constantly tries to get under your skin. What would happen if, next time, you didn't flinch? You didn't explain. You just let the moment pass without stepping into it. What would they do without your reaction to feed off? That silence isn't empty. It's loaded with strength. It hands their shadow back to them and says, "This is yours to carry." Chrysippus called this moment the turning point, the instant where unconscious reaction becomes conscious choice. And once you experience that power, you'll never want to give it up again. So now I want to ask you, what's the role you've been playing in someone else's drama without realizing it? Drop your answer in the comments. Your insight might help someone else see their way out too. And next, we're going deeper into that brief moment of silence between trigger and reaction, because that's where your real life begins. Number 5. The moment between stimulus and response is where free living begins. There's a moment, barely a breath, between the thing that triggers you and the way you respond. That moment is everything. Chrysippus called it the transcendent function, the point where your conscious mind meets the unconscious patterns buried beneath it. In that flash of awareness, you have a choice: to repeat the past or to respond from the present. And that's where real freedom lives. Most people never realize it. They're stuck reacting from old programming, childhood wounds, rejection, betrayal, abandonment. Those buttons don't come from now. They come from years ago. But in that moment, you can choose not to hand the wheel to your wounded self. You can stop living in defense mode. The one who stays calm in the middle of the storm isn't detached. They're in control. They've decided not to be pulled into someone else's chaos. That calm isn't fake. It's earned. It's not about bottling up emotion. It's about choosing how and when to express it, with intention, not impulse. Chrysippus taught that this is the heart of individuation, the process of separating your true self from everyone else's noise, demands, and projections. It's how you stop being a product of other people's wounds and start becoming who you actually are. It's not about perfection. It's about wholeness. It's about facing your own shadow, so no one else can use it against you. Think about someone like Tasha. She spent years trying to prove herself to a controlling parent, then later to manipulative friends, then a partner who always made her feel like she was too much. Every conflict turned into a performance. She defended, explained, begged to be understood. But nothing changed until one day, something clicked. She stopped justifying. She stopped explaining herself to people committed to misunderstanding her. The silence didn't mean she had no answer. It meant she no longer owed them one. That's individuation. She wasn't shutting down. She was stepping out of the role she'd been cast in. For the first time, she wasn't reacting from her old pain. She was responding from self-respect. Chrysippus warned about a paradox that ruins most people's emotional lives. What you resist persists. When you push back against someone's toxic behavior, arguing, trying to correct them, trying to get them to see you clearly, you end up feeding the very pattern you want to break. Your resistance gives their attack meaning. Your defense validates their accusation. You're still in the game, just playing from the losing side. And this is the trap most people never see coming. They think if they just explain themselves better, the other person will stop. But the more you justify, the deeper you sink. You become the villain in their story simply for refusing to play the victim. That's why Stoicism is more than philosophy. It's survival. The Stoics understood the power of that pause. They knew you can't control what others say, but you can control what you give energy to. And when you stop giving energy to every insult, every misunderstanding, every emotional hook, they lose their grip on you. The trap only works if you step into it. So don't. Step over it. Walk past it. And now, it's time to uncover exactly why difficult people often zero in on you, and how your inner strength quietly threatens their unhealed pain. If you found these insights valuable, let me know by commenting yes below. Your thoughts matter, and I'd love to hear from you. Number 6. Don't fall into the trap of justifying. When someone attacks you, the instinct to explain yourself can feel overwhelming. You want to set the record straight, to defend your intentions, to be seen for who you really are. But Chrysippus warned us. The moment you start explaining yourself to someone who's already decided to misunderstand you, you've lost. You're not clarifying, you're justifying. And in doing that, you validate their accusation. You step into their frame. You start playing their game. And that game was never designed for you to win. Chrysippus understood that when you give your emotional energy to someone who provokes you, you're not just responding, you're binding yourself to them. Psychologists now call this dynamic a trauma bond, an emotional tether formed through cycles of pain and resolution, conflict and connection. You start feeling connected to the very person who causes your distress, not because you trust them, but because they've hijacked your emotional system. They've become significant, not through love, but through repetition. Every time you react, you reinforce that tie. But here's the shift that sets you free, and it's not what most people expect. It's not about fighting back harder. It's about stepping away fully, intentionally, and without bitterness. Not the cold withdrawal of someone wounded, but the calm detachment of someone who finally understands. The moment you realize their behavior is about them, their wounds, their worldview, their level of emotional development, you reclaim your peace. You stop making their issues a reflection of your worth. Chrysippus taught that people reveal who they are, not through their words, but through how they treat others when there's nothing to gain. So when someone tries to humiliate you, ignore you, or twist your words, they're showing you something, but it's not about you. It's about them. And that's not just information, it's protection. When you stop taking things personally, you gain what Chrysippus called psychological objectivity, the ability to see clearly without your own emotional filters distorting reality. You move from reaction to recognition. The real power lies in the questions you ask yourself. Most people default to, why are they doing this to me? But that keeps you trapped in their story. Instead, Chrysippus urged a deeper question. What does this behavior reveal about their inner world? That shift changes everything. And if you've ever found yourself pleading to be understood, needing to prove your worth to someone who tears you down, stop and ask, what am I trying to prove, and to whom? Because often, that need to explain doesn't come from strength, it comes from doubt. Chrysippus knew that the part of you desperate to be validated might still believe what the other person is saying. That's the wound. And facing that wound is terrifying. But it's also the way out. He said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Because once you do, you don't need anyone's approval to know your value. You stop chasing others' opinions, moods, emotional storms, and you become the mountain unmoved, rooted, alive in your own skin. True self-worth doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't need to. Real confidence is quiet because it comes from knowing who you are beneath the noise. Chrysippus called this self-realization the psychological integration of your whole self, shadows and all. And that kind of strength can't be manipulated. It sees through games and walks away without looking back. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever caught yourself explaining, defending, justifying to someone who wasn't even listening? What happened when you stopped? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read. In the next part, we're going to look at what true emotional resilience looks like when you're standing in the center of someone else's storm and refusing to let it pull you under. Number 7. True strength is holding yourself in the storm of others. Real strength isn't loud. It doesn't shout, threaten, or react. It holds steady. It knows who it is. According to Chrysippus, true confidence doesn't flinch under attack because it has nothing to prove. It doesn't take the bait because it sees the trap for what it is, a reflection of someone else's chaos. When you're grounded in your own self-worth, you stop seeing every insult as a threat and start recognizing it as a symptom of someone else's inner war. Chrysippus once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." That awakening, the turn inward, is where real power begins. The moment you stop looking to others to define you, everything changes. You stop chasing validation and start choosing peace. And that shift doesn't make you weak. It makes you unshakable. It's not about running from conflict. It's about understanding which conflicts are worth your energy, because most aren't. Most are just emotional bait laid by people who don't even know why they're hurting. They just know they want company in their suffering. And if you react, you join them. But when you choose stillness, when you hold your center, you reveal the gap between your emotional maturity and theirs. That's the difference between unconscious reactivity and conscious choice. Chrysippus understood that evolution isn't just physical, psychological. The next step in human development is learning how to stay awake when someone else is asleep in their own patterns. And that takes discipline. It takes clarity. The person who can remain calm in the face of provocation isn't passive. They're fully in control. That calm presence is hard-earned. It comes from doing the work integrating the shadow, knowing your triggers, and not letting them run your life. There's a moment in every interaction where you decide who you're going to be, the reactive self, shaped by old wounds, or the aware self, grounded in truth. Chrysippus called this conscious living, the practice of choosing your response, deliberately rather than letting someone else's behavior dictate it. And in that choice lies your power. Because once you realize you're no longer a character in someone else's emotional drama, you stop performing. You stop proving. You simply are. Think of someone who consistently tries to push your buttons. They say something sharp. They twist your words. They try to drag you into their emotional mess. You used to bite every time, argue, explain, try to be understood. And every time you left feeling drained, unheard, maybe even ashamed. But now you see the pattern. And when you don't react, when you meet their storm with calm, you take back your energy. That silence, that stillness, it's not avoidance. It's sovereignty. Chrysippus believed that your greatest power is your ability to choose your response in any situation. That's the freedom no one can take from you unless you hand it over by reacting blindly. And once you realize that, you stop giving away pieces of yourself to every critic, every manipulator, every emotional grenade thrown your way. So don't let their storms define you. Be the one who stays still when everything around you is trying to pull you in. The one who protects their peace like it's sacred because it is. They hurt you on purpose, and they wanted a reaction. But now you know better. You know their power was never real. It lived only in your response. The moment you stop explaining, stop defending, stop trying to be understood by someone committed to misunderstanding youth, that's the moment you win. Not with revenge, not with rage, but with silence, clarity, and self-respect. That's how you make them regret it, not by becoming colder, but by becoming untouchable. If this message hits something deep in you, good. Let it move you. Let it remind you that you are not here to be someone else's emotional battleground. You're here to own your peace, guard your energy, and walk in your truth, even if no one claps. If you felt seen today, if something clicked, do not keep this to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to keep growing with us. And in the comments, tell me, what are you walking away from today that no longer deserves your reaction? Let's rise together, because your freedom starts with a single choice: to stay true to yourself, no matter who tries to pull you off course.